Really excited to have an opportunity to share with you all a really wonderful project, which I'm hoping some of you know about. Others may be just learning about it, which is fantastic. But wanted to share with you a little bit about how we've been able to use AMAZE and our Rights, Respect, Responsibility 3Rs classroom and put it all together in Google Classroom. So I know some of you may already be using this, so I'm excited for your feedback, and others, this may be the first time you're hearing about this. So let's go ahead and dig in. Just for folks who aren't familiar with our particular organization, Advocates for Youth, we've been around for close to 40 years. We really center young people as the solution to what ails our nation in all of its complexity. We have a tremendous force of youth activists across the country, and a lot of our great resources are on our website at advocatesforyouth.org. So I invite you to check it out, see what's there that could be helpful for the work that you're doing. So as we get started today, I know we've got hundreds and hundreds of us in the room, and I'd love to just administer a couple of quick polls so we can have a sense of who we are and the various perspectives that we bring to the work. So Lincoln, if I could trouble you please to launch the first poll, that would be really helpful. Great. So here's the question. What is your role in providing sex education? I tried to think of some big buckets. You can go ahead and just answer it right in the poll, and then we'll populate the results in just a few seconds. School-based educator, community-based educator, an administrator or a supervisor, which I saw some folks asking about, or other. I know that I missed lots of different roles that folks play, so please feel free to put those in the chat box if I didn't quite capture your particular role. And when it looks like we have a pretty good sense of the group, Lincoln, I'll just ask you to post up those results so we can kind of get a sense of our group. Awesome. I see some school counselors, some school nurses. This is great. Family planning, outreach educators, wonderful. Oh, great. Look at this. Oh, I love this mix of folks. So we've got just about half of us are community-based educators. That's great. I hail from 3 different Planned Parenthood affiliates in my own background, so love my community-based educator folks. We've got about 35% of us are school-based educators. That's amazing. We know that sometimes what we're allowed to teach in schools is a little bit different than what we're allowed to teach in the community. So it's great that we can complement each other with various perspectives. About 1 in 10 of us are administrators or supervisors in charge of health ed, sex ed for lots of people, including lots of teachers. And about 10% of us have other kinds of roles and responsibilities, which is great. So it's nice to have a lot of different perspectives. Also acknowledging that many of us may be in the room also as parents and caregivers, grandparents, aunts and uncles involved in raising kids ourselves, and may have that particular hat on listening in addition to our professional one. So let's go ahead and launch that second poll. I want to just get a sense of where we're at with actually teaching sex ed today in the middle of 2020. So are you currently teaching sex ed virtually? And you can define that however you want, because I know it looks really, really different from one place to the next. So is that a yes, no, maybe later this year, or other, which I'm guessing we'll get all kinds of like all of the above, or maybe not, or I don't know, they haven't told me. So give folks a chance to share with us your results or your thoughts on what's going on for you right now. Great, we roll out Friday, holy cow. Great, Lisa talking about using the 3Rs Google Classroom, that's awesome. So thankful for that feedback. Doing it later this year, never done it before. It's gonna be great. This is great, really wonderful to see where people are at. So Lincoln, whenever you think most folks have taken it, let's look at our results. All right, great. So almost half of us are actually teaching it right now. So I'm glad that this conference can be timely, can offer some helpful resources. Some of us are just kind of in the wait and see mode, maybe later this year, maybe not at all. And then I know we have a bunch of others, and folks were kind enough to put that in the chat. So thanks everyone, it really is helpful to get a sense of the different perspectives in the room, and also a sense of where folks are at with actually taking on teaching sex ed virtually in our ever-changing climate. So open up that chat box, because I want to, again, I know sometimes people are like, why are you asking for chats with so many people? But I just love to actually connect with folks. So here's the question for you. What was March 2020 like for you when you think back to kind of when COVID first was starting to shut down some of our major major schools, some of our major institutions. What was going on for you as you were experiencing this, right? So devastating, horrific, scary, worrisome, sad, absolutely surreal for sure. Yikes, panicked, in shock, so much grief and depressing, really intense. Absolutely confusing, shocking, all of it. So I'm really glad that people are giving voice to this feeling, because I want to recognize that a lot of what we have been asked to do is really unbelievable in terms of the nature. I was reading in the Facebook group that I saw someone put in the chat before, which has been a really nice community. People are being asked to like recreate the entire course, you know, in 24 hours time, or take something that was really successful when it was in person with a large group and think about how to do it individually, you know, in an asynchronous fashion, like by Monday morning. So this is really, as people say, unprecedented in terms of what we're being asked to do. And I just like to acknowledge that all of us have been asked to be incredibly creative and resourceful, doing more with less, at the same time supporting our students and our learners around all of the incredible intensity that this pandemic has wrought on them and their families. So it's just a lot for us to hold. And I like to acknowledge those feelings as we're diving into this before we get into the weeds of kind of, you know, how this program works. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that touch point with you. So let me step back and kind of give you some of the big picture items about how we came to have Google Classroom, and then we'll do a little behind the scenes tour for folks who haven't quite seen it yet, and tell you an exciting update to share at the end. So as many of you, I'm guessing, are familiar, for the last few years, Advocates for Youth has provided Rights, Respect, Responsibility, a K-12 sex ed curriculum. And let me share with you some of the features real quick, in case you're one of the, I don't know, 10 people left who's never heard of this. It is amazing, the word of mouth on this. So it's a free K-12 curriculum. Let me say that again, because people often are like, what? This is not possible. It is a free K-12 sex ed curriculum with 80 lesson plans available and all of the associated PowerPoints. We were really proud to align it fully with the original edition of the National Sex Ed Standards and make it not only inclusive, but also affirming. So there are standalone lessons around LGBTQ issues. There are also LGBTQ folks, their families, and school staff woven into all of the lessons, as you would see any other kind of family or relationship or friendship. We also provided a lot of parent involvement activities that are optional for folks to use, particularly at the K-8 level. A lot of people who are not using 3Rs have actually said our teacher's guide has been one of the most helpful things they've gotten their hands on, because it talks about all of those wraparound issues outside of the instructional time. So things like disclosure, things like setting up a safe learning environment, things like, you know, how do I handle personal questions? So that is also a nice feature that's available. And one of the things that I think folks may be excited to know is after the release of the second edition of the National Sex Ed Standards that happened in just March, speaking of March, we are currently underway with writing some additional new lesson plans that we expect to release in winter of 2021, probably about 30 new lessons, holy cow, that will then bring all of the lesson plans into alignment with the newest version of the sex ed standards. So we're pretty excited, and we are working very hard on all those lessons right now. So we had 3Rs available to us, which was a really amazing resource. We also then, of course, have AMAZE, right? This unbelievable resource that's got over 140 videos, as Shazmin just mentioned. And so we were really excited to kind of think about, okay, so how can we do more of this together? Certainly there are some 3Rs lessons that already have AMAZE videos in them. That was really fun to write. And we just knew there was probably more we could do here. So then we started thinking about, okay, so what do we know about how humans learn online? And for folks who were with us yesterday, this may be just a touch of a repeat for you, but it bears repeating. We know that one of the biggest things you need to do when you translate your content online is literally cut it in half, because we know it's much more intense to think about and to engage in content when it's online versus in person. So we really needed to think about timing. The other thing that we know from best practice practices about how humans learn online is to think about chunking the content. And that's both in terms of the design. So within an individual lesson, how do I kind of chunk it up discreetly? And then in my sequencing of lessons one after the other, how do I make sure that like lessons kind of hang together, or like units or themes? So that was really important for us to consider. And then we had this to contend with. I just grabbed this off of Pinterest because I thought it was like one of the most overwhelming visual calendars and schedules I could even imagine. We were hearing from schools that they were doing kind of a see all of the above approach to scheduling. Some were asynchronous, some were synchronous, some were a hybrid, some on Monday, Wednesday, you did one thing, Tuesday, Thursday, you did something else, and Friday, I don't know what you did, you had meetings. So we knew that we needed to try to create something that was super flexible and that would really meet a variety of schools with what they currently had to deal with. So we kind of put it all in a blender and we said, all right, let's dig in. Let's figure out how we can do this and help more teachers really meet the needs of their students with what we currently have going on. So let's all take a breath, because it can get very overwhelming. It can be hard to keep up with all of the spinning changes that happen kind of moment to moment, day to day. So I'm a big believer in kind of having natural pause points so our brain can kind of catch up to what our eyes are reading. So a collective breath, we'll do this together. No one's in it on their own. And I want to actually turn it back to you all. So get those chat boxes up and open again, because I have some STEM questions I want to ask you. One at a time. I'd just like you to respond in the chat box to the extent that you're able. Just want to, again, kind of see what your environment was like around sex ed digitally before we dive into some of the details of what we created. So thinking about this first question, when I think about teaching sex ed virtually, my school or organization is, what comes up for you? Not on board, naive, behind the times, on a hiatus, supportive, trying the best they can, putting out fires, nervous, very conservative, all for it, hasn't done it. Is this amazing? All in, not equipped, trying to stay ahead, trying our best, right? Isn't everybody just like trying to figure out, doing our best together? Hasn't done it, freaking out. I love it. It is so hard to keep up, right? Everybody's in a different place. Everybody's organization or school or whatever parameters are in which you do this work kind of are in different places, and that really evolves over time. So we get access to new technology as a pandemic changes in our particular location. So we know that this is really something that is evolving quickly, and we're being asked to be super creative and ahead of the game at times when we don't even know the rules of the game. So how about this next one? When I think about teaching sex ed virtually, my students need. So tell me a little bit about what you're hearing from your learners. What are you hearing from the environments that they're dealing with or where they're learning? They need patience, they need fun, they need their parents' consent, they need a safe space. They need to be entertained. They need the internet. Yes, right? Something so super basic like the internet or a device, super important. They need privacy. They need motivation. They need elementary sex ed, which they don't get. I hear you on that one. They need inclusive, affirming, engaging lesson plans. This is wonderful. Absolutely. So it's like a huge, overwhelming tsunami of need. And we have, you know, very limited resources at times, very antiquated technologies that we're given to utilize to teach one of the most complex, sensitive, yet amazing, there's a pun, topics for kids, right? So it's the perfect storm. So then here's one last one. Thanks for all your responses. When I think about teaching sex ed virtually, the parents and caregivers of my students. So what are you hearing back from them? I'm seeing are grateful, are amazed, would be against it, are supportive, are behind the times, are supportive, are relieved I'm doing it, not them, are scared, great, are not there yet, mostly supportive, some are angry. Great. I love just seeing this all pile in here. This is great. Would likely be supportive, surprised, need to give their kids some privacy, right? Need to not like be over their shoulder, kind of like, oh, I know the answer to number 2, which is always wild to me. Great. Not checked in to care enough. Absolutely. So we've got kids that have parents that are super engaged, maybe more engaged than we need them to be. We've got kids that are struggling with not an adult, engaged or supportive adult that they can turn to or they can get support from. We've got kids who are being asked to parent their own siblings in situations in which they have, healthcare workers that are not able to take time off, and everything in between. So we know that we've just got so many moving parts on this, and it's really hard to kind of figure out one solution that will work for everybody. So like we tend to do at Advocates, we try to figure out what's going to provide a solution that we could quickly bring online that's going to have the least barriers possible for the most people. That's often how we kind of think through some of these problems. So that led us to Google Classroom. I have to say, as I've learned more about technology, it's certainly not the most sophisticated platform, and many schools ran to it because it was what they had available at their fingertips. They already had G Suite for Education, so it was something that teachers were familiar with, and it was just a matter of putting those classes together. We also did it because it's free, and we didn't want any economic barriers to stand in the way between kids who need good quality sex ed and the educators who could provide it. So that's another reason why we did it. Since then, I will tell you, there are a lot more exciting ways to make some of these elements more interactive, more engaging for learners that we just, didn't even have available to us then. And we're learning more about that. And that's where you come in to kind of tailor it and adapt it and make it even more exciting. So this is what we did. We took the California version of the 3 Rs, which is an adapted version that kind of aligns closely with the California Healthy Youth Act. That gave us 10 to 11 lesson plans per grade for each of 3 grade bands. We wanted something for elementary, middle school, and high school. And looking at some of the data when sex ed is most likely to be taught, those were the grade levels that we chose. Something that would sit right around grades 5, 6, something for grade 8, and something for high school, which is typically taught in like a freshman or a 9th grade health class. So that's how we landed there. We then created in the Google Classrooms, which I'll show you in just a second, all of these different lesson plans that then we would invite teachers to join as a teacher, not as a student themselves. So what that allows teachers to do is then copy the entire course and make any changes that they want to. And it's been really wonderful to see some of the adaptations that teachers have been making. Sometimes they share with us what they're doing, and it's really fun to kind of just applaud them and see all of the great work. I know many of you in this room have been doing that yourself. All the lessons were truncated down to 20 to 25 minutes, obviously to observe best practices. And I just wanted to give a shout out. I just see Christopher Pepper posting in the chat. So him in particular from San Francisco, and Rachel from San Diego were 2 folks in particular who were super gracious and really helpful when we were getting this all started to just lend expertise, lend resources from their district, and it really helped us improve the products that we were able to provide for folks. So just a shout out to those folks in those districts in particular. So what the heck did we create? So there's a lot of text on your screen right now. I recognize that, and I'm going to ask my colleagues to actually put in the chat box a PDF version of this particular slide. So this is something that you would like to look at in greater detail. You don't have to try to like memorize all this stuff on here, but I wanted to quickly show you what is available across the 3 grade bands in terms of the lesson plans and the topics. So now you've got that in the chat box as a PDF that you're welcome to grab if that would be helpful for you. We can also share it with you after as well. So let's take a little bit of a tour then. Let's kind of see what's behind the scenes. I want to show you one lesson plan from each of the 3 grade bands to just give you a sense of how this all works. And then again, I've got an exciting announcement that I'm going to wait till the very end to do. Okay, so let's start with grades 5, 6. Obviously, we'll start young and go to the older grades. Here's what it looks like, folks. It's it's not the most glamorous thing, but it works, I tell you. So this is what it looks like when you look under the coursework, just an example of kind of all the lesson plans one after another. What's great about this is that we're going to look at this particular lesson plan 4 on puberty and reproduction. If you were to open that lesson plan, you would see typically about 3 or 4 points of direction. This one in particular has you first start by reviewing the PowerPoint, right? Not so, interactive, but gets you started. And then you get to watch the AMAZE video on pregnancy and reproduction. I'd highly recommend that one if you haven't seen it. It's really, really fun. And then after that, we know that you open the Google form and complete the activities in there. And I'll show you what that looks like. And then you submit it to your teacher, right? So here's where you would see the video. Usually takes about 3 to 4 minutes. And then here's just a piece of the activity where you need to put in the correct sequence, all of the steps that would be involved to start a pregnancy, right? So these are things that they've had in the PowerPoint, they watched in the video, and now it's just a way to kind of review that information and make sure that they can do it correctly. So this is where some teachers may have something different that they wanted for a piece in here. Maybe they didn't want to use that video. It had a piece that was, I don't know, problematic for their district. If it was a conservative district, they wanted to use something else, and that's great. That's where teachers start to swap out stuff that they like to use better or that resonates with their district more than, you know, what we may have started off with. So that's a quick example of grades 5, 6. I'm going to take you through 8th and high school, and then we'll pause and kind of get your feedback, but I wanted to show you all of them back to back. So here is 8th grade. Again, just it's fun. I use our youth activists from days gone by as the picture. So those are our real young people that we've had the honor to work with. Here are some of the lessons that we have put into the 8th grade. So you can see some of the range of topics. We're actually going to look at this one in particular. It's one of my favorites. So here are the pieces to it. You'll see that again, it has about 4 of the different pieces in terms of the directions. So first you watch a video called Big Status Update, and shout out to Eyes Open Iowa for creating this video. It's one of my favorites. It's short, it's so provocative. I think it's really great. And then after you watch that video, you go ahead and you open up the Google form and you respond to some questions there. And then you watch another video. This one's about adoption. And then after that, you watch our AMAZE video on abortion, which is the one I want to show you. We're super proud of this one. And then what you're going to do is you're going to complete some reflection on both of those videos. So let me go ahead and stop sharing for just a sec. I want to be able to share with you this video. All right, this is where I start to go, holy cow, I hope this all works. Okay.
I love that song, Nora.
Oh, yes, we're all gonna get it in our heads in just a second. Sorry, you can see me doing this. Okay. All right. So this is the video that's more recent than others called What is an Abortion? I wanted to play it for you and then we'll get your reactions when it's done. Just showing you one of the videos from one of the lessons for 8th grade.
Hi folks, my name is Sam and I'm your friendly guide through some pretty big and complicated topics. Today, I'm here to help us explore the topic of abortion. There's a lot to say about abortion, so I'm going to do my best to talk us through some of the most important facts to help make it clear and easy to understand. First off, abortion is a very personal decision, and only the person who's pregnant can know what is best for them.
So let me just check. It seems like maybe I can see the video and others cannot. Is that accurate?
That's correct, Nora.
Oh no! I'm glad someone texted me and I'm not like, hey, I'm having a great time showing this video and no one else can see it. Okay, hold on just a sec. Thanks to my colleagues for sharing that with me. All right, how about now? Did I do any better?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that, folks. Woo! All right, let me go back so we can do the whole thing.
Hi folks, my name is Sam, and I'm your friendly guide through some pretty big and complicated topics. Today, I'm here to help us explore the topic of abortion. There's a lot to say about abortion, so I'm going to do my best to talk us through some of the most important facts to help make it clear and easy to understand. First off, abortion is a very personal decision, and only the person who's pregnant can know what is best for them. For anyone dealing with an unintended pregnancy, talking with a trusted adult can help to figure it all out. And I'm here to help too. So, let's start with some of the basics. When a person gets pregnant, they have 3 options. They can carry the pregnancy to term and raise the baby. They can carry the pregnancy to term and place the baby for adoption. Or they can end the pregnancy by having an abortion. You see, there are a lot of reasons a person might have for making any one of these decisions. If someone decides to get an abortion, it might be because they don't want to have a baby, or maybe they can't afford to raise a child. Maybe they're in school and they're worried they won't graduate if they have a baby. Sometimes people already have children and they don't want any more. And sometimes there might be something wrong with the fetus. Either it's not developing properly or it has a serious, incurable disease. Whatever the reason, it's up to the person who's pregnant to decide what's best for them. An abortion is a very safe medical procedure. There are 2 types, medication and surgical. A surgical abortion is a short 10 to 15-minute procedure that takes place at a clinic or hospital and is performed by a healthcare provider using local anesthesia. The vast majority of surgical abortions are done during the first few months of pregnancy. During this simple procedure, a healthcare provider uses gentle suction to remove the fetus from the uterus through the vagina. Most people say the procedure feels like strong menstrual cramps, and contrary to its name, no surgery is actually involved. A medication abortion is a procedure that uses pills prescribed by a healthcare provider to end a pregnancy. It can be started either in a medical office or at home. This approach is most effective during the first 3 months of pregnancy. Medication abortion consists of 2 medications that first stop the pregnancy from growing and then cause cramping and bleeding to empty the uterus through the vagina. Most people say medication abortion feels like a really heavy, crampy period. Okay, so those are the basic facts about the physical side of abortion. Now let's talk about the legal side and what you need to understand. There are many laws pertaining to abortion, and every state's laws are different. In some states, young people need their parents' permission to get an abortion. In most of these states, young people may instead seek a judicial bypass. This is when a young person goes in front of a judge to prove they're mature enough to make a decision about their unwanted pregnancy without permission from a parent. Some states allow young people to decide on their own if an abortion is right for them, with no parental involvement. Research your state's laws to better understand your rights. Abortion can be controversial, and it's something the United States has been debating for a long time. In fact, some people feel so strongly about people not having abortions that there are places called crisis pregnancy centers. There are fake clinics that exist only to try to talk a person out of having an abortion. They look and sound like real abortion clinics, so make sure you ask if they provide the services you need and want before you go to one of these fake clinics by mistake. So, while some people don't believe in abortion, others believe a pregnant person should be able to have an abortion and not be judged by others. After all, every person should be able to decide what's best for themselves, their family, and their future. I know we've covered a lot of information. Remember, if you feel confused or overwhelmed, talk to a trusted adult. And if you need to come back and watch this video again, I'll be here waiting to help explain it from the beginning.
All right, so I'd love to have folks go ahead and put in the chat box reactions to that, because it'd be really helpful just to get a quick sense of what you thought of it. Let me pull up the chat so I can follow along with all the great feedback I'm sure we're getting. Great, so folks are really finding they like the section on crisis pregnancy centers. Awesome, informative, non-judgmental, loved it, well-rounded approach. Oh, someone's getting teary, this is great. So simple. Really appreciate this feedback. As you can imagine, this was one of the tougher videos to try to create for us so that we could make sure to provide complete and accurate information in a way that would still be accessible for young people regardless of where they live. So we know there are states that aren't able to use this particular video because of the topic that it covers, but we also know that young people are pretty savvy at figuring out ways to get their questions answered. So we hope if you're one of those community-based educators that maybe you're someone that might be able to utilize it if the school is not. So I really, really appreciate all of your feedback. This is really confirming to us that all that hard work was really worth it for this one in particular. Great, so let's move on. That is really just showing you one particular lesson from the 8th grade unit. I know a lot of people are like, how can I get myself some Google Classroom 3Rs? I will tell you that in just a minute, don't you worry. I'm gonna give you step-by-step directions, so that is coming. Wanted to finally show you the high school classroom and one particular lesson that's one of my favorites, but here's just a sense of all the different lessons in the high school classroom. There's actually one more. There's 11 lessons total. The one in particular, because I think a lot of us are working on condom education and safer sex and barrier education, I wanted to share this one particularly. This is a really fun one because I just really enjoyed running around the web and seeing what was out there that all these brilliant organizations had created. So it starts with this really great video from ETR that kind of does a really amazing condom demonstration with a real person kind of doing the demo. So that's great for folks that that aren't able to do that themselves in classrooms. And then it goes to this amazing game from sexetc.org. So shout out to Answer Colleagues for creating this brilliance. If you've not played this before, I highly recommend it. It is a really fun game. You have to drag and drop the different steps into the correct order. And then once you do, you are treated to this really great little video that does a demonstration featuring Dan Rice. So it's a really fun one. And then what you do next after that really fun game is you go ahead and you watch our video. So let's see if I can do this correctly this time. I want to play this one other one for you. There we go. Can folks see it on the screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so now I just have to get it so I can see it. Oh, wait, no, that's the wrong one. Sorry. There we go. Everyone able to see the condom video?
Yep.
Perfect, thanks so much. Okay, here we go.
Someday, what may seem unbelievable now will likely happen. Someone will agree to have sex with you. Congratulations. Hey, didn't you forget something? Yes, that's important too, but I'm talking about condoms. It's a good idea to use condoms when you have sex. Condoms are an effective method for preventing pregnancy, as well as HIV and other STDs. Okay, I see that you need some help. Let me give you some tips on how to properly use a condom. Check the expiration date on the condom package to make sure the condom isn't expired. Open the condom package. Never use your teeth, scissors, or any other sharp object. You may rip or cut the condom. Before sex, take out the condom. It should look like a little hat. Then hold the tip of the condom to remove any air and then roll the condom down to the base of the erect penis. The condom should roll easily. If not, it may be inside out, and you should throw it away and get another one. Use each condom for only one sex act. After ejaculation, withdraw the penis while it is still erect. Hold on to the base of the penis to keep the condom from falling off. Remove the condom, tie a knot in the end to keep the semen inside, wrap it in a tissue, and throw it in a trash can. Condoms come in different shapes and sizes. There are also different colors and textures. It's important to find a condom that is comfortable for you and your partner. Some condoms have lubricant to make them more comfortable during sex, while others do not. Non-lubricated condoms can be used with water-based lubricants, such as commercial lubricant you can buy in the drugstore near the condoms. Never use Vaseline or other oil-based lubricants, as they will break down the condom. Condoms can be purchased at many stores, including pharmacies and grocery stores, and even in some gas stations. There is no minimum age a person needs to be to buy condoms, or maximum.
All right, so our second video there around condoms. Curious for folks' feedback on that one. Looks like folks are already doing as I would hope and putting it right in the chat box. So I'd love to see just some reactions to that one. Let's see what folks. Great, incredible, funny, informative, so good. Thumbs up, love the humor. Yeah, I love the oil in particular. I thought that was a really good use of some gag humor. Best video, teens would love it. So one thing I will tell you is the version I just shared with you is a version that we created for schools in particular who wanted to use this video. There is about 5 more seconds in there's a longer version that's probably better for community-based educators that you can find on the AMAZE website. So sometimes for schools, we're able to do some creative editing, and particularly if it's just, cutting out a second or two, but oftentimes the, regular versions work just well as well. So thank you for the feedback. Appreciate it. Great for young people to revisit after a class. It's a great use of it as well. So just to round out how this particular lesson from the high school Google Classroom works, after they go ahead and watch that video, then what they do is they use this really cool CDC website where they can find a condom, and I'm assuming other safer sex supplies within their zip code. So you can set it for a mile within your zip code, 10 miles, 5 miles, whatever. whatever. And it's really cool to kind of see the map that comes up on the list of resources. So I thought that was great to always connect our young people back with resources. And then lastly, to just make sure they've really cemented their understanding of all the steps needed to use condoms correctly, we have them put these steps in the correct order on a Google form and submit that to the teacher as their assessment on that particular lesson. So just wanted to point out kind of the fullness of that lesson. And lastly, in Google Classroom, in each of the 3 grade bands, we also have a folder just for teachers. So it has any answer keys if there is one that's needed. It has obviously the teacher's guide that I mentioned before, and it has any other resources that teachers may need. So sometimes they're looking for sample ground rules to use. Sometimes they're looking for a little coaching on how do I deal with, being trauma informed or hearing a disclosure of abuse or assault from my students when we're all digital. So we got some guidance and some thoughts around that in each of the teachers folders as well. So let me break here. Ask for folks' reactions to any of the 3 or all of them lessons that you just got a quick tour of. Some of you may be familiar with them. Some of them, again, may be new to you, but I'd love to just hear your gut reactions about how these may resonate with your learners. If there are changes you would make, would you use them as is? Could you think of improvements, which I'm guessing many of us may have had ideas about how we could change them. I hope to use some of these. That's great. I see some great smiley faces, some of the emojis. This is awesome. Love these. The humor is perfect. Thank you. Great. Excellent. Need more cow. You are so fun. Great. New to me, but I love them. Helpful. More on dental dams. Absolutely. Thank you for that feedback. This is great. Super helpful. Okay, good. So no one's like, holy cow, these are the most wild things I've ever seen. That's great. Okay, so then here's the question usually I get next, which is, all right, how do I get me some 3 R's Google Classroom? I'm going to show you kind of the step-by-step way to get yourself into Google Classroom if this is something that you want to look at or potentially use with your learners. First step would be go to 3rs.org. So that's the number 3 and the letter rs.org. Once you get to that home page, you're going to go to the section of the top toolbar that says curriculum. All right, pretty easy. Once you get to that curriculum landing page, you'll notice in hot pink, one of our colors, it'll say Google Classroom at the very bottom. All you need to do is click on that link and you will be invited to submit a form. So one of the things I want to let you know about this form, because we run into this problem all the time, we know many schools and organizations have security firewalls. They don't allow lots of spam. They keep all of the marketing emails, all that junk out that we don't want. And often they will also filter out really good stuff, like this invitation from Advocates for Youth to join Google Classroom. So you will note that I try to be really, really clear that to start with, people have found it really helpful to just use a personal email address. Usually there are less filters around a Gmail address, a Hotmail, an AOL, whatever you may be working with, and then I can get you immediate access into the Google Classroom. And then if it does seem like something you want to use with in a school or an organizational setting, generally what needs to happen is a process that's unfortunately called whitelisting. It's the worst phrase ever. And what that means is that there would be folks in the IT department that would give permission for our particular invitation to get through your security firewall. It's a fairly easy process. We've done it with many, many schools without incident. It is one extra step, but we need to make sure that, those privacy security walls are in place and just allows through the things that you actually want to get access to. So just a note about that in terms of what email that you use. And then what happens is I am uploading batches of invitations every 24 hours. We've gotten a pretty exciting response to this. And so you would get an email that kind of looks like this, although it wouldn't say Nora Teacher 19. It would say your name, and you would just click on that blue button that says join. It would then take you into whatever of the 3 grade levels you've asked for, or maybe all 3 if you want them all, which is great. And once you get in there, what you'll see is you'll see versions of the class that come up on this tile view. And once you're in this tile view, all you need to do to make a copy of the class, and again, we will share these slides with you, so don't worry, you have to remember all of this. I send you an email as well with all of it outlined for you, is you just click on those 3 dots, you hit copy, and there you go. Now you've got a copy of the class with your name listed as the teacher. You can make changes you want. You can administer it to your students so that all of that work comes back to you as opposed to coming back to us, right? One of the other things that you need to also do, particularly if you're going to be using any of the Google Forms or assessments, is you need to make sure to make copies of those as well. We've got them all in one folder and one link. And so it's pretty easy to do that. Doesn't take a lot of time, but we, again, want to make sure, like I kept getting some student responses who are filling out some Google Forms and I'm like, these are great. And I have no idea how to grade these. So you don't want them coming to me, you want them going to you. So just make sure that you take this step so that you can go ahead and join as a teacher. And then once you do, you can make all those edits. You can assign it to your students. You can assign points, due dates, all that good stuff that you might want to do. So I hope that was kind of a clear step-by-step way. Ashley, thank you for just putting it in the chat box one more time for folks. You go to 3Rs, you click on curriculum, and then you click on the 3Rs Google Classroom, create the form, and then I have a feeling I'm gonna have a very busy night and tomorrow and sending out more invitations for folks to join. So that would be super fun on my end. So last but not least, here's my super exciting announcement. We were so lucky and really, really fortunate to find funding to translate all of Google Classroom, all 3 grade bands, into Spanish. We are days away, literally, thanks again to my colleague Ashley, who's been working tirelessly on this. We are days away from being able to share this version in Spanish for anyone who could find it helpful. We translated everything we possibly could into Spanish, and lucky enough, many of the AMAZE videos already existed in Spanish, so that was spectacular. Some things we couldn't translate, like an entire CDC website or something like that, obviously, unfortunately, still exists in English, but by and large, most stuff has been translated into Spanish. What we are going to do is go ahead and put into the chat the link so that you can join in Spanish. And if I hope we're able to do that now. I think we should be able to, but if we're not, we will send it out to you right after, because like I said, we are mere days away from being able to share this in Spanish with folks, and we're just so excited to be able to do that. So looks like Ashley was able to just put it in there if you want to put your name, and again, a personal email would work best to start with, and then we'll get you access within the next couple of weeks as soon as it's launched. We want to make sure our colleagues who are Spanish speakers can read through the entire thing to make sure we didn't make any mistakes by accident. And then it's something, again, that you could edit, you can share with your students, you can have parents preview if you think that would be helpful as well. But it should be within the next week or two. Hopefully we'll get through the conference and then we'll be able to get that all taken away. So let me stop here and turn it back over to, I think I'm turning it back over to Shazmin so that she can share with me any questions that may have come in that I could be helpful in responding to.
Yes. Thank you, Nora. It's always so much fun to have you present.
I can find out my video button, right? Whoops.
Got it. So we have a lot of great questions within the Q&A. One of the ones that popped up pretty early was, will Elizabeth Schroeder be creating those new lessons for the winter next year?
Oh, I love it. I love when we ask for Dr. Schroeder by name. Yes, we were lucky enough to work with Elizabeth Schroeder again to be one of the curriculum authors on some of the new lessons. Additionally, my esteemed and brilliant colleague, Brittany McBride, has also been doing some of the writing, and I'm the third in the team that's rounding it out. So yes, we got Elizabeth back in all of her brilliance, which is great.
Wonderful. Will there be facilitator training that accompanies the 3R curriculum?
Yes, so we are planning again, just like we did when we launched the first one, to be able to offer some facilitator training. As a reminder, for 3Rs, there's no required training, but it is something that if people choose to participate in, if they something they think they can benefit from, it is something we're happy to do. Currently, there is online 3Rs training, again, through our colleagues at Eyes Open Iowa, so I'd encourage you to check that out if you're looking for training right now. They've got a really great kind of orientation that you can take part in. But after the launch in the winter, we will absolutely be making ourselves available so that people can, connect with us or others that are trained on 3Rs. We know there's a lot of new topics that could be a little more challenging for folks, and we want to make ourselves available to help train around those.
That's great. So then I actually have like a technical question for you.
Oh, let's see what I know. Oh boy.
So a person, Alicia, is asking, Will we be able to access with our district email associated Google Drive, or will it need to be our personal email?
Oh, great question. So what I would recommend is you first submit your personal email so that you can check out the course without any issue. See if it's something you want to use with your students. Make sure it's a good fit for you. If it is, then what you need to do is request in your IT department at your school or your organization for them to whitelist our domain name. I'm using technical jargon here. That will then allow an email from me at Advocates for Youth to get through your security firewall, and you can accept the invitation there using your school email. So there just is that one extra hurdle to go through if you want to use it with your students. But I just recommend people check it out using their personal emails. I promise I'm not going to spam you. I promise. It just gives you an opportunity to make sure it's a good fit for your students, make sure it's something you want to invest the time in to go through that process. And then it's pretty easy to get the tech folks to do that for you.
Wonderful. So Rachel is asking, if you've already uploaded through our Google, how does one know when there's any new additional content? And can you select specifically that new content?
Yeah, so the new content that we'll be offering is all of the grade bands in Spanish. We haven't added any new content since the spring, mostly because we've been working on the Spanish versions. What we would do is we are hoping to be able to add some more content around 4th grade, 7th grade, and additional lessons in high school. Once those are created and launched, we will send an email out to everyone who shared their email with us so that they could be aware that there's new content available and they can choose to use it or not, or sub it out or whatever. All sky's the limit in terms of the choices you've got at that point.
Ah, that's awesome. This is a great question from Lynn. She wants to know, do the lessons involve any live discussion among students? And if so, how do you establish trust among students who don't really know each other?
Yeah.
And this is for community-based education too.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I appreciate that so much. So we designed Google Classroom with the thought that it is asynchronous, but we've definitely had many educators tell us that they've used it in a synchronous fashion and had all of the students like over Zoom watch the videos together, and then instead of filling out a Google form, they had a discussion or they got into breakout groups, or maybe what they did in small groups around like the condom lineup steps we were showing, they could do that in teams as opposed to individually. So it's very, very easy to use it in a synchronous fashion. If you wanted to do that with groups of kids, I think it would be really, really fun. And it wouldn't take a lot of work to adapt it in that way. Did I get all parts of that question?
Yeah, okay. I think you did. Let us know in the chat if you still would like some more answers for that one. Rachel also asked, if we have less than 10 to 11 lessons per grade, is there a list of priority lessons that they should focus on?
Yeah, that's a good question, and probably one that's best answered by what your state requirements are or district policy is. It's hard for me to say from my perspective what I think folks should focus on. I could give you my opinion about stuff, but I think what is more important is for you to kind of check in with what your district policy is around sex education, what's already in your curriculum that you would have covered in an in-person fashion, and or what are your state regs, because you want to make sure that of the 10 or 11 lessons, you're selecting the ones that, you know, not only do you think are a priority for your students, but also keep you in alignment with what your district and your state requires you to cover. Sorry,
Right.
like a cop-out answer, but follow the law, you know, check and see what you can and can't do. And feel free to email me if you want to chat more about that. I'd be happy to be in touch with you.
Awesome. So Kirby has a really great question. We've actually talked about this behind the scenes. Curious if the curriculum is inclusive of people with developmental disabilities.
Ah, I love this question. So at this point, we did not have the funding to be able to adapt the curriculum for students with special needs. And we know that those students are some of our most vulnerable and really need more and better sex education. So to that end, what we were able to do is to work with the curriculum developers of Our Whole Lives, which is the Unitarian Universalist Association's amazing curriculum. If you've not seen it, it's so beautiful. And they have this really great adaptation guide in the beginning of their curriculum that helps educators know how to make some adaptations depending on the differing needs of their learners. In addition, I would be happy to be in touch with folks who are looking for particular resources, because I know of a couple that are freely available online, and I'm happy to connect people to those resources if you want to be in touch with me. And my email is super easy to remember. It's just my first name, Nora, no H, at advocatesforyouth.org. So feel free to reach out. I'm happy to be in touch.
Great. The next question that we have is actually going back to the abortion video that you shared. They wanted to know, will this video be translated into Spanish?
Oh, it's a good question. I might kick that over to one of my AMAZE colleagues because that is one I'm not sure I know the answer to. So Shazmin, do you or Lincoln's nodding? Yes. Okay, good.
Yeah, so as we mentioned, AMAZE videos have been translated, around 170 of them have been translated in more than 10 languages. We have a partner, AMAZE Latin America, and they're always translating and dubbing new videos. So the abortion video should be in their queue soon, but it's not translated yet.
Awesome. Thank you for your help. That's awesome.
Yes. Perks of being around the world with AMAZE. It's wonderful. Sure. So we have just a couple more questions, if that's okay with you, Nora.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So Christopher is asking, do you think we need to tell folks anything about using the Google Forms?
Okay. Thank you, Christopher, for prompting that. Yes. Because Christopher was so helpful to help me figure this all out to begin with. Yes, so the Google Forms, you need to make a copy of each and every one so that the information will come back to you as the owner of that form instead of coming back to me as the original owner of the course. So what we did, and with Christopher's help, so I appreciate the reminder, is not only do we put it in the teacher's folder, one link so you can get all the forms in one place, but we also titled each of the forms to say, please copy me, hyphen, name of the form. We're just trying to make sure that, again, when your students complete any of the Google Forms, you receive their results, you receive their work so that you can assess it and it doesn't go to the wrong place by accident. And you're like, where did my students' work go? So yes, just to reinforce, you need to make copies of those forms so that you are the owner of the forms and not us at Advocates for Youth. Thank you for that reminder. Super helpful.
Yeah, that's a really great reminder, even just like day-to-day working, make
Yes.
copies.
Exactly.
Yeah. So our next question is really great because it's about metrics, which is something that I adore.
Oh, good, good.
Are there any plans to have evaluation data for 3Rs published in an academic journal so that it will meet the requirements of federal OPA grants?
What a great question. So we actually, when we were first writing the 3Rs curriculum, we consulted with our colleagues at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, specifically the Division of Adolescent and School Health. They administer some of the cooperative agreements that some of our largest school districts and formerly state departments of ed had around sex education, and we wanted to get their advice about this particular question. And what they told us was that we would need to do a study that looked at sex education, kindergarten through 12th grade, in addition to a follow-up survey that would involve at least 1 million or more young people. And at that point, the price tag got so big and it got so long that we recognized it was just not sustainable. So at this point, we don't have any randomized controlled trials or any of that good evaluation data specific to 3Rs. But I will say is that we use all of the health theories to guide how we wrote the lesson plans. You are welcome. We've got a frequently asked questions that kind of goes through all those theories and all that information if that's something you're interested in. So it's definitely something that's evidence informed, which I know is a particular language that folks are looking for that federal funding as opposed to evidence-based. We like to be very upfront about that. But I will say, you know, from the 17,000 people that have downloaded 3Rs in all 50 states and 65 countries, not that I'm counting, right, Shazmin, with our metrics, we have gotten overwhelmingly incredibly positive feedback from folks. Yes, it's not published in a journal, but we know that young people love it. We know that teachers adore it, and it's really making a difference, and that's really feels really good.
Yes, it does. That's incredible. I would love to know, and so would Marisol would like to know, if the Spanish versions of the different links that you send out, if they're a part of it or if they're attached They just want to know how that they can, really obtain this information.
Sure. So is this to get the Spanish version of the 3 R's Google Classroom? Yep.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Ashley can put it back in the chat, the form that we are collecting your names and your emails now if you're interested. The entire thing is in Spanish. So all of the directions for each and every lesson are in Spanish. All of the Google forms have been translated to Spanish. All of the AMAZE videos, if they're not already in Spanish, have been dubbed into Spanish. Most of them are already translated, which is great. We translated everything, every PowerPoint we had, we just went to town with it. So we did it as completely as we're able to. And we're really excited to share it with folks that think it could make a difference where they live.
Wonderful. So I probably have time for 2 more questions. I'm curious about how you use Google Classroom on a Mac, because I think we were talking about Mac earlier.
Ooh, yeah, I love it because I am a Mac devoted user. So I only use Google Classroom on a Mac. I've never had an issue with it. Sometimes there can be funky browser issues. So sometimes the difference between Google Chrome and Firefox and old school Safari can show up for folks. Sometimes we notice that you need to like refresh your browser and deal with your cookies and your cache and all that good stuff. But I have never had an issue working on Google Classroom on a Mac. So fingers crossed that is the experience of others as well.
Great. And for our final question, thank you, Nora, again, is from Lynn. It's kind of a follow-up to what we were talking about earlier.
Great.
And making sure that we help create trust online amongst youth. So we were talking about her being community-based, but the young people that she's working with actually don't know each other at all.
Yeah.
So is there any guidance that you could share?
Absolutely. And I'm glad to be able to circle back to that part of her question. So thanks for bringing that back to my attention. Yeah, so I would say let's think about how we would do this if we're in person. So if we had a group gathering for the first time and we wanted to create some rapport and some safety, we would be creating some group agreements together. We would be doing some icebreakers. We would be getting people into pairs and small groups. And there are ways that you can do that online, right? So if you're using Zoom or if you're using Canvas or one of these other platforms, you can get people into maybe trios to start asking some just kind of, maybe they could interview each other and find out a little bit more about each other and then introduce the other person that they were working with to the group. Maybe collectively they could brainstorm using some interactive Google slides, just off the top of my head, some group agreements and kind of come up with what they want their norms to do. I find for myself, sometimes when I name the discomfort, when I talk about, hey, we're going to talk about a subject that is fantastic and super uncomfortable. So how are we going to do that, right? So if you just kind of name the discomfort and you talk about how we're going to slowly work our way into this, it can sometimes relieve that nervousness, that anxiety, and to just kind of name that elephant in the room, so to speak, and then hopefully use some of those fun, creative, icebreakers that we often do. And when we're together in person, we can do many of them online using some of the tips and tricks we've got, and hopefully that will be helpful.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Nora, so much for your presentation, for staying with us to answer this wonderful Q&A.